Alright, welcome to the 6th video of CMT155. Today I'm going to go over the spot healing brush, the patch tool, to help out with editing blemishes and whatnot. So we're going to start with the spot healing brush, and I'll zoom in and on this woman's face, and you don't need to sample an area like you do with the clone stamp tool. But as you see, I'll go ahead and click over this this little mole here. We'll click, and you notice it will use, it's a math-based editing tool, which means it'll take the surrounding pixels and it'll make a judgment to replace those. And as you see, when I click on this one, it'll replace those, replace the pixels within that circle based on the pixels surrounding it, just by a math equation. We're going to undo those, and I'll show you the healing brush tool. This you need to sample. You can do it by holding Alt, and you'll see it'll bring up an area, or it'll bring up this little crosshairs when you hold Alt, and you need to sample an area that is close to the pixels within this mole area. So we'll sample, right here. It's close enough, and we'll go ahead and click. And what it'll do, it'll sample that area, it'll use that sampled area, and use those pixels to replace what I clicked. So let's say you had an accident. I'm going to sample this area over here, the bright area, and go ahead and sample over here. And you'll see that it still replaced the pixels, and it works like the spot healing brush, whereas it uses the surrounding pixels to make a judgment call on what pixels to replace within the circle. The only difference between the two tools is that the spot healing brush, you don't need to sample an area, but with the healing brush, you need to sample an area. Another difference between the two, we'll go back to the spot healing brush. Let's just go ahead and undo. You can create a texture, which means you can, as you see, I'll zoom in here, and I clicked using create texture. It made a little jump in pixels, and I'll go ahead and go to proximity match and do a different click. So I'll click right above it without create texture selected, and we'll see what happens. So that it didn't add a little texture. We'll go back and let's try create texture again and see what happens. See, it'll kind of add a little bit, sharp, I don't know, different variations in color in the pixels. It's not always the best to use. Some instances it might be, but stick to the proximity match. I'll just go ahead and do those both. And we'll zoom out back to the original view. All right, the next tool is the patch tool. So the patch tool is it's pretty easy to use. You start out with something that resembles a lasso tool. You'll make a selection guided by the dragging the mouse, clicking, dragging, and you'll sample a circle. And you'll want to sample an area in which you want to fix. So we'll go ahead and fix this mole right here, this little blemish. So we'll select it with the circle, and when you drag over it with the mouse, you'll see a little marquee looking thing come over the top, and as you click and drag out, and as you drag around the canvas, you'll see that certain pixels, whatever the selection is and where I'm dragging, it'll bring up those pixels in the original selected area. But what I want to do is keep it within that same range, and this is used to transfer textures with skin tones. Let's say you wanted to let's go and deselect this, and you needed to fix the eyebrow a little bit right here. So let's select this little area right here. Once we're done, and we'll go ahead and click and drag, and we wanted it to be a little bit more like this. We can let go, and it'll use the sampled area and the pixels around it to make a judgment call of what pixels to replace. But it used this eyebrow hair, and this one in here. So it's a good way to transfer texture while still maintaining a certain pixel continuity, I guess, is the best word to say. So the patch tool and the healing brush and the spot healing brush are very useful for touching up photographs. And I will see you next video.